Yeah, that
You want to know anything different
that you need to do that you've done in the past.
Well, but I believe that the difference comes in the execution, because to think about what you have to do different before the job at hand is sort of keeping yourself up at night when you should be sleeping. See, one thing that I feel that you cannot, or you should not rather, worry about is things that you can't change. And so I don't, this is where my age really comes into play here. I respect, but I don't underestimate, but I also don't worry about things that I don't know about, because you don't know about it. And so I prepare to do what I know how to do best. And for 20 plus years, going on 3 decades, that rule of code has never betrayed me. As they say, sometimes it's too old to teach you old dog new tricks. Certain things I do agree, certain things I submit to being old at. That's one of them. That's actually one of them. I don't get caught up into what another guy might and can do. I train, I study, I know me. There's no fighter in the world that I will not put my record up to beat them any given day in this era, in any class. And that's how I feel. And that's not being cocky, that's being confident. And to be confident, you have to have a track record and put that work in to be taken seriously. You can talk about it, but to be about it is a whole different concept. I think I'm the smarter fighter than think. A better way to win now, because even with success of being young, there's a lot of things that now that I look at when I was young, even though I was successful, I waste a lot of time. But those things you have to go through, and that's why we are young before we are old. And that's why we are immature before we become mature. These stages are set by the times of life, and so you can get there before he or she, but at the end of the day, y'all all gonna get there when it's time for you to get there. And that's the thing I realize in life, not just sport, is that when I look back at my last, that's a great question, to the last 5 years of my career, and the way I feel, and the less hours I spend in the gym compared to when I was younger, I say I'm fighting 10 rounds or 12-round fights and 3 times 12. Why I'm training for 4 hours? See, these are the things when you do when you're young and you're dumb and you got all this energy and you just run and you realize I'm training for a fight that's less than an hour, 4 hours. You would believe that's an overkill. But as you get older, you understand that somehow some don't survive that long torture, and some survive it. And if you get the knowledge to understand, like, don't you know you gotta reverse that now? I wouldn't be here now if I was thinking that same concept without growth and development now. If I was training the way I was training, even though I was successful 20 or 15 years ago, I'd be burnt out. I'd be overtrained, overthinking, overtraining. There's a lot of college people in here that studied their test and thought they was ready, and they did study. They overstudied, and they flunked the whole damn test. They know they're in the crowd, and they had to go, no, seriously, but they had to go back and take a deep breath. They had to realize that, wait a minute, I'm making this thing out to be too serious. It's keeping me up at night. You know what I mean? I went through 15 cups of coffee, trying to stay up, you know what I'm saying, and busting my head. Let me just step back from it and take a deep breath and relax and chill. Do something else for a minute and then get back to it and you'll be fresh as a daisy. That's the spiritual side. And that's the side that young folks and young fighters and young people don't get right away. and some will never get. That this part of life, part of the game. I'm glad I got both of them. So I know the difference between, even with success, between this and between that. I'm having the best time in the last 5-6 years that I had in my whole career, even with the accolades of success. The best time.
Because you don't have the pressure on you? You don't feel like you're...
You know why? It's because over 60% of the population of America is over 50. And I'm 2.5 months, I'm 50 years old, and I know that's a statement that's going to make a brand and a movement that's going to be way beyond what I do in the ring. Can you imagine that they got a halftime in football, they got a halftime in basketball, they got a halftime in certain sports where you got 4 quarters or 2 quarters. And you at the second half with respect and dignity, just like the first half.